it like because I come from South Africa, right? We don't have this scheme. So it's an insurance scheme, so National Disability Insurance Scheme. So that's something I'm not used to. But what I'm really grateful is, so it's this, this insurance scheme from the government that goes and says, okay, well, we have some people in the community that need some support extra on like what normal people who don't have disabilities need, and they don't have those limitations. But if that limitation is covered, then they can potentially be part of the community. They can actually be an asset to the community and the country, is how I see it, right? So this isn't necessarily for, oh, I can sponge off it. I mean, I'm sure there are people that do that. I get that. I understand that. So for me, that's how I see it. So I see it as the government giving me a hand to say, okay, well, here's some extra coin for you from the taxpayers' money, which is weird because I'm still a taxpayer. And says, okay, so we can help you in 3 different categories. One is assistive technology. One is capacity building, because I have lots of areas that I now have to build capacity. And it's not like I can go back to school. It's not like I can suddenly be 12 years old again, so I have to spend that to catch up And then there's another category where there are certain limitations in disability that will always be there. It is not something you can improve on. It is what it is. And then it's like the government's like, okay, well, here's some money so you can pay people to do this for you, help you, supervise you, whatever, because that's never going to improve. But it's also in that category, it's to help pay people for taking you out into the community. So, for example, right now, I have this group thing that I'm going to start, right? So it's this class where it's like 3 participants. So it'll be 3 NDIS participants. They each have their own dog because that's what they're interested in, right? And then we go and we do play dates. And then we go and we practice for assistance dog stuff because that's what they want to do. So I am a support worker that's offering a group-based activity that 3 different people who would never have met, come out of their home or socialize with each other, will now do that because they're happy to do it with their dog. Does that make sense? Yeah, so the fact that I'm on NDIS actually allows me to help other participants who are on NDIS. And that's why I'm so grateful for what I do. Because, now in NDIS we have the price guide. And in the price guide you have all the different categories. And you are actually limited in how much you can charge. Okay, so for example, in the NDIS guide for the, so this thing that I'm currently doing, almost, more, yes, correct. So the dog training business is my business, but I'm also as a support worker. So for example, this group session that I'm doing, right? So I cannot charge more than $65.47 per hour. Now, if I have 2 NDIS participants and I divide that by 2, then that means I can't charge them more than, 30 something, 32? I don't know. Yeah. So if I have 2 NDIS participants, I cannot charge them more than $32.74 or 75 cents. Right. Now, some people will look at me and go, but Ariza, how much would you charge for a normal dog, like one-on-one training session with a client? And I go, well, I charge $110 per hour plus travel. But then for the NDIS, if I'm working one-on-one with a client, I can't charge them more than $65.47. So if I do, then let's say I charge them $70. That means the $4.53 the client has to pay and the NDIS participant. But a lot of these people might not have a job. Okay, so yes, I'm making almost half of what I make if I was doing it to a member of the public privately, correct, but it is more consistent. And that's one of the things with me as a dog trainer, I can tell you. When I started this business, I would have programs, so I would finish within 7 lessons, I would finish. And then after 7 lessons, so that could be 7 weeks, or if a person did every 2 weeks, that's 14 weeks. So every 7 to 14 weeks, I had to generate people to replace the person who I finished a program with. So that's a lot of marketing and all that. Where with the NDIS, I don't have to do as much marketing because I have such long-term clients. Because one of the things with the NDIS that people do not understand is people with disabilities are inherently more desperate, which means they can be taken advantage of very easily. Not because they're dumb or anything or and like that. It is just you are so desperate that sometimes you just need the help. They need the help, yeah. And I know from my experience, when I build a bond with a support worker, someone that I can trust, I want to keep that person for as long as I can, because they are actually bringing value into my life. Not necessarily in a dollar value, but the dollar value is for them, right? Because they need to make a living. And that's what I mean. So it's something I'm super, super grateful for. And that's why I'm extremely careful with when I'm helping people and when people come to me and go, hey, I'm on the NDIS, can you help me? And I'm like, you need to understand that we need to do this correctly, because I don't want you to get thrown off the NDIS, because I'm not the only person you're paying, right? So I'm paid as a support worker, for example, but they might have, so I have, Alex, who's my support worker, but then I have psychology, I have, what's the other one? I have my EMDR therapy, I have, all these different things where my capacity building comes in. I have someone who helps me with the house cleaning, right? I have someone who helps me with yard maintenance, for example. Now, that's called a formal support, so someone who you're paying. But then NDIS is also like, well, what about your informal support? So this is like my mum, right? So NDIS says, if your mum comes and cleans your house for you, we're not going to pay her because she's your family. She's your friend. Yeah, conflict of interest, exactly. Because there can be people who could misuse this, and they can say, well, my mum cleaned my house for 3 hours, but she only did an hour, or she didn't even do anything. And then that way, they're stealing taxpayers' money. I know someone once told me one of the people she knows buys furniture with the NDIS money. And, we're not talking about a special furniture as in assistive technology. We're talking about furniture. That is not good. So and that's what's so hard, because the NDIS is still panel beating itself out. It's a young system. And it's anything that needs maintenance, as you would know, and anything that needs to be, what's the word, monitored? Is that the word? Moderated? That takes time. So obviously it's very easy for people to misuse, which means later on people who are misusing it will then make it super hard for the people who are using it correctly. So yeah, so